in a sense, there is no such thing as American companies. Companies are owned by individuals. Companies are owned by their shareholders. Many of the shareholders in these companies come from all around the world. What does it mean that a company is an American company? That it's got its incorporation papers at Delaware or in California? But the fact is, the owners of the company need to make a decision. Should they outsource to India or shouldn't? It's their business. It's none of my business. And it's certainly none of the government's business, and it's none of your business. If you're a shareholder of a company and you have an opinion about this, go to the shareholder meeting. But what is the standard by which a company should decide? Do we outsource to India or don't we outsource to India? Shareholders. Is the decision going to maximize the wealth of shareholders over the long term or not? That's the only criteria. There is no other standard. There is no what's good for America. There is no public good. There is no common interest. There is no public interest. The only standard is this going to maximize shareholder wealth? That's what businesses are run for. They're not run for the collective. They're not run for America. They're not run for you. They're not run for me. They're run for the shareholders of the company, and therefore they get to decide, and they should decide on whether it's a good business decision or isn't a good business decision. And you can imagine some cases where it's a great business decision, other cases where it's an awful business decision. From a governmental perspective, government has no business in this decision. It has no business to tell a company who it should employ, where it should employ them, how many people it should employ, how much they should pay them, what benefits they should give them. Government has no role in regulating business, any business activity, as long as that business is not violating people's rights. And that would have to involve fraud or physical force, and business doesn't. So get the government out of business. Certainly this kind of decision is, it's irrelevant economically, and it's irrelevant, and it's wrong in terms of the rights violation. So if the government, for example, said, you cannot outsource to India, then it's violating the rights of the shareholders to do as they wish with their property. This is not the government's property. Government shouldn't have property. It's the property of shareholders, and shareholders should be allowed to do with their property as they wish. Shareholders should be allowed to shut down the company and fire everybody. They should be allowed to move the company overseas. They should be allowed to move some people overseas and keep some people here. They should be allowed to pay people $1,000 an hour or $1 an hour. I don't know who would come and work for $1 an hour, but it's their company. They have a right. That's what rights mean. They have a right to do whatever they want with their property, as long as they're not physically hurting other people or committing fraud. And we got to get away from the terminology that both conservatives and liberals use. What's good for America? It's just not the language of individualism on which this country was based. The question is, what's good for the individual? By the way, from a purely economic perspective, outsourcing is wonderful. It is a fantastic thing for all of us, for all Americans. It lowers the cost of the goods that get produced. We get to buy stuff cheaper. And as long as we take responsibility of our own lives, get educated, we will create the kind of jobs that we're good at. That's always happened and always will happen, as long as we take responsibility of our own lives, and as long as we, view being productive as a virtue and go out there and achieve productiveness. There is no risk. This is an economic mythology that all the jobs would go to Asia and we would have nothing to do. Never happened, cannot happen in a free economy. So what we need to advocate in every opportunity we can is for a free market. A free market revolution is what we need. We need more and more freedom in the realm of economics.